Justice deferred is justice denied. My mum has been denied justice for too long. I'm confident that this inquest will be the first step in righting that wrong. I'm confident. No. I have faith that this court will make sure that those who are responsible for my mother's death pay for what they've done. Debs? No, don't give Maxie a hard time. If he's sick, he's sick. I'll be fine. I'm probably better off doing this on my own anyway. Look, I've got to go. I'll call you later.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I just nipped round to wish you good luck.
Thanks. Actually, you've just caught me.
So, are you up for it?
Totally. My day in court and all that. Coroners take death in custody really seriously these days, so...
Well, I hope you get what you need from it.
Rob and Emma are hiding something. That's what I need to know.
Perhaps you should keep an open mind.
I want a criminal case after this. I want them in jail for what they did.
Do you think it'll come to that?
Yes.
Maybe I should take a sickie and come with you.
I think they'll work that out. I'll be fine. Thanks, Valerie.
I hope you've calmed down, because if you throw a strop in court...
All right, all right. You don't need to come.
Oh, I do, and I am. I've laid your uniform out upstairs. On a day like today, you wear it with pride. It sends out a signal.
And what signal is that? That I'm a police officer who doesn't care what happens?
It says who you are. It says that you care about your job and your duties. It says that you've got nothing to hide and nothing to be ashamed of.
It doesn't matter what I wear.
It matters, and it'll be weird if you don't. Come on. I'm proud of what you do, and so should you be. Go on.
What?
Just glad you don't have any servants to beat.
I'm sorry. You're kind enough to give me a lift and I beat your car up.
It's fine.
Have you spoken to Aisha at all?
No, she still won't talk to me.
Normally, I would be the one telling the mill to give her as much time and support as she needs, but I think I need to stay out of the way. It's sad because, well, I'm the closest person to her who knows what it's like to lose a loved one suddenly. But she won't talk to me.
Is this the first time you've been to the coroner's court since...
Baby Nicholas? Yes. Look, don't drop me outside the court. Drop me around the corner.
Why?
Because of Aisha. When this is all over, she's going to need you. And if she thinks you're on my side in any way, then...
You know, just say a lot that you're still thinking about her.
Can you do me a favour? Give her a call, see that she's okay. That's it.
I feel like I'm rubbing a nose in it.
Well, she needs to hear the truth, and the uniform gives it more authority. You need to snap out of this mood you've been in. I've made allowances, but enough. I've been in hundreds of courts.
You'll still love me, no matter what happens.
Of course. You daft Apeth. It's just nerves. Just... You'll be fine.
Do you think it'll be long before we have to give evidence?
Do be later. Wait. I'm not going to go in until I have to. Are we going to be all right?
Yeah. Why shouldn't we be?
Do you think...
What?
Nothing.
Take a seat there for me. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Court is about to commence if you'd like to make your way through.
Thank you.
Just give me a minute.
Sergeant? Members of the jury, the responsibilities of this inquest are clear. To confirm the identity of the deceased, to establish the place and time of her death, and how the deceased came by her death. Any death in police custody is a very serious matter, and not just for those directly involved. It speaks to the trust we as a society put in the police. It is our duty to ensure that those in police custody are looked after. I'm satisfied that the deceased has been identified as Brenda Lee, age 48, of 31 George Street, Leatherbridge. She was pronounced dead by Dr. Emma Reed at 18:55, Friday, June the 30th, 2017, at Leatherbridge Police Station. Miss Lee was involved in a demonstration at the Leatherbridge Council Housing Office on Argyle Road. The police were called at 13:36. Police officers arrived at 13:56. Those statements record that Miss Lee was verbally and physically abusive, and she was arrested at 14:04 hours.
She was attacked by the police first.
Miss Lee, please, you will have your chance to put your point later.
Well, she was.
The jury will determine the truth on the veracity of evidence. It is my job to clarify the timeline of key events in leading up to your mother's death. I know this is a difficult, emotional process for you, but please let me continue.
Sorry.
Now, Miss Lee had a history of substance abuse, but it should also be stated that she had also made long, difficult, but sincere efforts to overcome those issues. Miss Lee was brought into Leatherbridge Police Station at 1500 hours. The custody sergeant on duty was Sergeant Robert Hollins. Sergeant Hollins is a highly regarded police officer. He's hugely respected, with an unimpeachable, exemplary record of public service, including commendations for bravery, which is as relevant to this court as Miss Lee's efforts to overcome her addiction problems. Sergeant Hollins authorised the detention of Miss Lee and placed her in cell 2 at 15:10 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes before her death. At 18:11 hours, Sergeant Hollins carried out one of his regular checks and observed that Miss Lee appeared no longer to be breathing. He activated the alarm. Dr. Emma Reed was the FME currently in the station. She's an extremely experienced GP and FME. She attended and attempted to resuscitate. Her attempts were unsuccessful, and Dr. Reed declared Miss Lee was dead at 18:55 hours. These are the bare facts. Given that this was a death in police custody, we will no doubt hear some unflattering things said about the deceased on that day. However, it is important that we bear in mind who she was in all her humanity. To that end, her daughter, Miss Lee, wishes to give her testimony for the deceased. Miss Lee.
Have you heard anything?
No. But they've only just started.
Well, if you do, then please.
I'll let you know. Yeah, I've been dreading today too. I can see from both sides. I just hope he gets a bit of closure, that's all. Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it either.
If this atmosphere continues, then
What can you do? It'd be easier to get rid of a nurse than a doctor, right?
Well, I hope it does not come to someone having to leave.
Yeah, me too.
My mum. Brenda Lee wasn't perfect. But when she died, she left 4 kids who love and miss her desperately. She had a lot to cope with. She was a single mum raising 4 kids, and she did her best to raise us as good people. I think she succeeded. It was hard, and it took its toll. Yes, she had drink and drug problems, but she had beaten them. My family and I had got our mum back. Even in her darkest days, she always protected us from the bad in the world. But when she needed protecting, who was there? Not Sergeant Hollins, not Emma Reed. I've heard Emma Reed's record being whitewashed, but her record has a body count. A baby died because of her.
I am well aware of the baby Nicholas case and Dr. Reed's involvement. I also know enough not to base my opinion on what the tabloids write. If I consider that case to be relevant at any point, I will raise it. I have raised the histories of each of the individuals involved in your mother's death in order to be even-handed to all. It is important to remember that Sergeant Hollins and Dr. Reed were highly experienced professionals.
I get that, but that should be warts and all too.
Inexperience can sometimes explain unprofessional conduct. It could well be that their experience will leave them with some very difficult questions to answer. We'll have a brief recess. I want you all to think very seriously about your conduct in this court. There will be no more warnings. All rise.
Where's Rob?
Don't know.
Was he all right?
I don't know. I'll give him a bell.
Well, where'd you have his phone turned off?
Oh, yeah.
Mom! I'm in the toilet.
I supervised the removal of the body and conducted a post-mortem examination on July the 3rd this year. I concluded that Miss Lee died of cardiac arrest due to myocardial infarction.
Is it possible to conclude whether this was related to drugs or alcohol abuse or agitation of being detained?
It's impossible to form any conclusion.
Were there any traces of drugs or alcohol in Miss Lee's body?
No, none at all.
So, should Miss Lee have been examined by a doctor prior to her detention?
That depends.
Is it possible to ascertain how ill Miss Lee would have been before her cardiac arrest?
No.
What symptoms might she have been exhibiting?
Anything from chest pains to tiredness, nausea, back pain, toothache to nothing at all.
So, should she have been examined by a doctor?
As far as I'm aware, there is nothing to suggest that there was any obvious need for an examination, other than possibly for a suspect with Miss Lee's known history of substance abuse, and given the nature of her behaviour, it might have been worth taking a look at her, just to ascertain whether she had taken any drugs.
So, would you consider Dr. Reed to have provided the appropriate standard of professional care?
That depends. If Dr. Reed had been informed that Miss Lee had complained of any physical symptoms, or she had been told of the nature of Miss Lee's arrest.
If either of those two had happened, was there a professional standard of care?
I would have to say no.
Did Miss Lee complain of any symptoms?
No.
Did you inform Dr. Reed of the physical nature of the arrest?
She didn't complain of any pain, so no.
You checked Miss Lee at 16:58. Sergeant Hollins? Sergeant Hollins, you checked Miss Lee at 16:58, but you didn't enter it into the log.
Are
you all right?
Can I get a glass of water, please? Thank you. I don't remember why I didn't log it. I should have done, and I meant to, but we were busy. I did check on Miss Lee at 16:58, and she was well, and there was no indication of what was going to happen. I just forgot.
So, you forgot not just to enter the check, you forgot if you'd actually checked her. Is this a regular occurrence?
No.
This wasn't the only time that you checked on Miss Lee, but failed to enter it into the log?
No, there was one other occasion.
So, this wasn't a regular occurrence, but it happened a couple of times on that day. Why? And what was different about June the 30th? Were you in your right state of mind?
It's like when you drive the same route every day. You can do it on autopilot, and sometimes you can forget routine things.
And crash the car?
I'm not really explaining myself properly.
If I may say, Sergeant, you seem unusually perturbed for an experienced police officer giving evidence.
Yeah, I am. With all due respect, sir, this didn't happen to you, it happened to me, and no one's ever died in custody when I've been responsible for their safety. So whatever is decided, I have to live with this.
I understand.
You know, every day I ask myself, every day, what if I would have checked on Ms. Lee more than I was required to? What if, when I found her asleep, I would have woken her up, you know? 100 what ifs. A vulnerable lady died on my watch, so I think that you should be worried if I wasn't perturbed, sir.
Of course. You fully grasp the gravity of the situation. You're to be commended for that.
Yes, it's police procedure to check on all suspects in custody. It's advisable to have the same person, usually the custody sergeant, conduct the checks. That ensures continuity in each check.
So it was Sergeant Hollins who carried out each check on Miss Lee?
It was. It should be noted that the CCTV footage of the custody area showed that Sergeant Hollins's checks were properly conducted at the appropriate times. Sergeant Hollins may have been lax in recording the checks, but they did take place. Sergeant Hollins has cooperated fully with the IPCC. He did make an error, but the IPCC is of the view that this error was an honest mistake with the paperwork and not an attempt to cover up any negligence on Sergeant Hollins's conduct with Miss Lee.
You questioned Dr. Reed as well?
Yes.
Dr. Reed was told by Sergeant Hollins that initially he couldn't recall whether he'd done the check. Did Dr. Reed inform you of that?
No.
Was she required to?
Yes. If there'd been any doubt that Sergeant Hollins had failed to carry out his duty, she should have told us immediately.
Would this be regarded as a minor honest mistake or a breach of her duties as an FME?
At the time, I regarded it as a serious breach of her duties.
No, I didn't report it. But that was out of consideration for Sergeant Hollins. I have never known him to be anything other than an extremely conscientious police officer, and I had absolutely no doubt that he would have carried out his duties diligently.
But he had doubt.
Yes.
And that wasn't enough to make you consider carrying out your duty and reporting this?
Well, we've heard that I was correct, and that he did indeed check on her.
But you didn't know that then? Dr. Reed?
No, I didn't. Because I know from my own experience how easy it is for somebody's reputation to be smeared. Small details are distorted. And having been through that myself, I wanted to protect him.
Would you not agree that the best protection lies in following the rules rather than omitting truths?
They're covering up for each other. How can we trust anything either one of them says?
Miss Lee, sit down. Final warning. Dr. Reed, you may return to your seat.
Come on. Come on, sit down.
How did that look?
Yeah, you had a bit of a wobble.
A wobble?
You got a bit lost.
I suppose I was, really.
Not only do you not know if you check my mum often enough, but you both tried to cover it up. Aisha, this is... Get off me! You killed her. Both of you.
Rob didn't kill anyone.
Just leave it, Karen.
Look, I don't know how to make you understand this, but your mother died because she had an underlying condition, because of how she'd lived her life. It had nothing to do with us.
How many more people need to die because of you?
Maybe she's right.
No.
Maybe we are responsible.
No, I'm not having that. I'm not. That woman was a car crash waiting to happen. She got herself arrested, not you.
As my conclusions are very much in tune with the jury's, I'm going to preface the verdict with some comments on this inquest. First, perhaps the most striking thing about this death is Dr. Reed's conduct. Her lack of transparency in her failure to communicate Sergeant Hollins's doubts was reprehensible and may indeed have led to suspicion with possible suspension or possibly more severe consequences for Sergeant Hollins. The fact that his doubts proved unfounded was good fortune and in no way excuses her unprofessional and potentially criminal neglect of her clear duty. However, that neglect, as it was not a factor in Ms. Lee's death, is outside the remit of this court. I recommend that the IPCC investigate this further. Sergeant Hollins had his doubts over whether he had performed his duties to the full. However, despite his faulty memory, it is clear from the custody records and from the custody area CCTV footage that he carried out his duties diligently and appropriately. This jury, and I agree, finds Sergeant Hollins blameless. The jury finds Miss Brenda Lee's death in police custody was death by natural causes.
No. No! It's a cover-up!
Miss Lee, you have been warned.
I just want justice for my mum. If they hadn't neglected her, she'd still be alive!
I appreciate this is difficult for you to accept, but this court has not received one single piece of evidence to suggest neglect. Quite the contrary. Now, I've made allowances for you that this is a difficult, emotionally charged time, but I can no longer do this. You'll be silent, or you'll be charged with contempt of court.
You do understand, Dr. Reed, that this investigation isn't over.
I realise that.
We'll be in touch.
I told you there was nothing to worry about. Come on, let's go and get a drink.
I don't know.
Come on. You've been cleared. Let's go and celebrate.
Celebrate? Aisha's mum died. How can we celebrate?
You're right. You've been blaming yourself.
No, I haven't.
I am not stupid, and I know you. Listen to the jury. They looked at all the evidence and they found you blameless.
Are you sure? No. Obviously, that wasn't the verdict that you wanted. I'm sorry about that.
Aren't you the bigger man?
But I am genuinely really sorry about your mum.
What do you want me to say? It's all right. Let's forget about it. Let's all be friends again.
No.
Look, I want you to know that...
I'm not buying it. If you were truly sorry, you wouldn't be able to face me right now.
Come on, are you sure?
Nice little performance. I'm not interested.
Well, I hope in time that we can put this behind us. I'm just glad it's all over. The inquest, I mean.
The inquest? Yeah. The rest? No. That is not over.
You can't ride a bike, can you? In all honesty, I think it's perfectly unnatural.
I've always thought that there was something unbalanced about you.
My whole head hurts, my brain's aching.
Denny was my boyfriend. Thought me and him would get married and have kids. We talked about it, didn't we?
Find a unicorn faster than you find an NHS dentist.
Have you considered going private?
I'm a student.
Get a student loan.